This is Allie's Awareness Avenue, where we talk about all kinds of life issues. My name's Allie, and my guest tonight is amazing. You're going to fall in love with him. His name is Adam Davis, and he is an author and also a former police officer, and that's what he writes about. So let's say hello to him, welcome him, and find out everything that he does. Hello, Adam.
Thank you so much for having me, Ali. It's so wonderful to be here.
I am so glad you are here. I have been looking forward to this forever, it seems. Okay, so as a former police officer, you know the stress and pressures of our law enforcement officers. And as an author and a speaker, your mission is to offer help and hope to those who walk the thin blue line. Now, if that isn't the most amazing intro I've ever read, like that is so awesome. So what what got you started? I mean, I know you were a police officer. How long were you a police
Yeah.
officer, Adam?
I began my career in 2009. And what's really unique is I began my career with the intention and desire to retire as a police officer after 25 years. That's what I wanted to do. So I started off on night shift patrol and sort of worked my way through, doing a few different tasks. And I worked a day shift patrol, traffic homicide, and then that's working traffic fatalities and traffic enforcement. Nobody likes it when I talk about working traffic enforcement, writing tickets and things of that nature. But so I moved from that into criminal investigations, where I worked for like property crimes, burglary, uh, violent crimes, sex crimes, things of that nature. I was also simultaneously a hostage negotiator, so to call out, and worked secondary negotiator for several different negotiations, and just played a pivotal role there, and really enjoyed. While I was in traffic enforcement, I was on bicycle patrol, which was very interesting, and I had a lot of fun. So I was there for about 6 years, and in 2015, I wrote and self-published a book, and it was just really a book to encourage law enforcement. I self-published it, and I really don't like to talk about it anymore, just because I feel like it was pretty low quality, uh, considering the two books that have come out in the past 6 7 months or so, and so that book opened the door for a publisher out of Minnesota to locate me and contact me, reach out and want to talk about a traditional publishing deal, and the rest is history. So,
Wow.
May of 2018, my very first traditionally published book went mass market global, and is for sale all over the world and doing really well. It's in like an imitation leather binding, and it's a long journey. I mean, it would take me several hours to talk about it, but I look back to where I've come from, and I'm very thankful for what I have been through and where I'm at, and people I'm able to serve today.
Well, I think it's amazing what you do. I mean, we talked before the interview about I'm a huge fan of Live PD, just because I think people need to really see what police officers go through on a daily basis.
Sure, sure.
Now, you're the author of 4 books, including Behind the Badge, 365 Daily Devotions for Law Enforcement, and Bulletproof Marriage, a 90-day devotional, which you co authored with Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. Am I saying that right? Grossman?
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, Grossman. Okay. On combat, on killing, and assassination generation. Now, in your writing, you provide spiritual nourishment and encouragement for law enforcement officers through personal stories, scriptures, and prayers.
Yes, the majority of my work, everything to this point is faith based, and I understand that everybody has sort of different views and different beliefs and that nature, but I was in a very dark place, Allie. I was in a very dark place, and I was very hopeless, and I think really the primary point of me coming and sort of sharing my story with you and with your audience is the fact that I battled depression, um, horrible, horrible darkness that sort of was kind of just drowning me. That's how I felt, and I felt, at one point that I was sort of at the end of my rope, and um, I grew up in a pastor's home. I grew up in a pastor's home, and all my life, and I felt like that I had what I felt to be a good relationship with God, and everything that I believed was based on me being a performer, being good enough, and being a good enough person, and I really, after getting into law enforcement, just being very frank with you, getting into law enforcement, I saw a lot of horrible things, and got to the point to where I really doubted. And a lot of people may not want to admit that they've had doubts or things of that nature. And so I got to the point where I was really questioning everything and that I'd ever believed, and faith is what brought me through. And
Yeah.
so it's what brought me back. You know, there was a point that I felt like I'd have been better off dead or never had been born. A lot of people think that this is too taboo to talk about, but I feel like it's more important that we do talk about it.
I agree.
And I felt like that having, you know, not existing anymore, that I was better off dead than alive, and all this other stuff. And that's not to, you know, kind of put myself in a pity party or make people feel sorry for me. I'm not a victim. You know, I am a sort of a product of where I've come from, and I think that if we look at um, from a realistic point of view and see, okay, where are we at? What are we dealing with? Why are we dealing with those things? And how can we work through them? For me, it was my faith in God and a genuine relationship that I discovered as a police officer, and just a love that has really changed everything for me, and the way that I want to engage people and interact with other human beings, and that's changed everything. And so, um, you know, I was at a very dark place, very, very dark place. And I am so thankful. I feel obligated today to help others find hope and to be encouraged. And like I said, and before we started recording today, is if we don't have anything to give anybody, we can encourage them. You know, we can lift them up. We can give them that hope. And so uh, that's what I do through my writing, and I've been all over the country. 2018 was very busy. 2019 is looking to be a lot busier, and so
Good, good.
very very excited about it. But you know what's beautiful is that through all the pain that I experienced, through decisions of my own or circumstances or however you want to look at it, through all the pain, through all the darkness, I'm still standing. And I think that if you go and look in the mirror, you'll see that you're still standing. If you're in that place, you're still standing, and you're stronger than you know. And I want you to know that. And whoever's listening, I want you to know that you're stronger than you even realize. And there's nothing in this world that's worth losing your life over. So that's what I do through the words that I write. Most of everything I write is for first responders, the military, and that's really just because that's, you know, I am one of them. I am, you know, even though I don't wear the badge anymore, my heart is with law enforcement. But you know, every day that, you know, my passion is to find a way to encourage them and to uplift them with the faith that many of us share.
Yeah. I love what you do. And over the past several years, you've presented for numerous churches and universities. You are a
Yeah,
co-facilitator with the Grace School of Theology and CareForce US, and you've also appeared on the 700 Club. So congratulations on all of that.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Now, you've received endorsements for your writing from highly recognized individuals. Now, I'm Canadian, so let's hope I say all this right. Such as Lieutenant General Steve Hummer,
Yeah.
USMC retired. Is that what that means? RET?
Yes.
Okay.
United
I
States
got it.
Marine Corps retired. Yeah.
Alrighty. Lieutenant, we also talked about Colonel Dave Grossman. I said it right, I think. And he's a
Grossman,
U.S.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a U.S. Army retired. Mark Devine, he's a founder of SealFit.com. Now, is that like the SEALs?
Yes, he was actually a United States Navy SEAL, and he's got several fantastic programs out and available. One is called Unbeatable Mind, and the other is SealFit.com, which really focuses on helping individuals sort of get to the point in their physical fitness to where they can live a healthy and productive life.
Wow. SEALs intrigue me. Um, and many others. So if it says in your bio, if you ask your readers and supporters, they will tell you that you are poised to become the go-to voice of encouragement for officers seeking reassurance from someone who understands what they live every day. And one of the things we talked about before we started was PTSD. And I mean, I know that it is very prevalent in, a first responder and in the army. Obviously, we all know that. And I think it's so important that they have somebody to go to, because I know sometimes, I mean, just from watching, and I'm going to just, watching Live PD, watching, stuff on TV, which I don't usually, except for Live PD. Anyway, they have a hard time sometimes going and reaching out for that help, because they've been putting that badge on for so many years, and they're supposed to be, invincible in people's eyes. So I think some of them have a hard time reaching out, right?
Well, I've talked to many people who are who are very much like that. They really don't want to talk about it. They don't want to go to a clinician or to a therapist or to a doctor of any sort. But I can certainly speak to my own account and my own story. And I had horrible nightmares. Wake up with sweats and really just being hyper vigilant and things, and very moody, snap, just be very angry for no reason. And I understood after leaving why that was. And so, what I encourage men and women who contact me all over the United States now, law enforcement, I've had messages today from Miami, South, deep South Florida, Miami area, Fort Lauderdale area, all over the country, and I encourage them to talk to somebody. If it's a peer, if it's a doctor, if it's a minister, if it's somebody that will listen to them and be able to help give them that guidance. But yes, it's really a culture of law enforcement that you have to understand, and many people will never understand that if you expose, or if you sort of express some sort of weakness, or if you express something along those lines of PTSD or symptoms of that, any type of post traumatic stress symptoms, then it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where you may be ostracized, or whatever the case may be. And so I think that it's really creating a conversation around law enforcement that helps to shift that culture, and to encourage conversations on an individual and a national scale, that we say, okay, we got to remove the stigma from this. Let's work some programs. Let's get something in place and some practical steps. But for me, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a clinician. I am a writer who was changed by my faith in God, and so that is what I provide. And but that has found, it's been proven in many studies, that faith has a tremendous role in overcoming traumatic experiences. And so that is where Colonel Grossman really wanted us to partner together in some of the work we're doing, is to provide that based on his studies and based on his experience. And now I've got, various individuals who PhDs in counseling and mental health and all sorts of other things. But it's just wonderful to have these people come along and say, yeah, we recognize the power of what you're doing, and let's put it together with the clinical side and see what we can do to help change lives. And so it is something that is very difficult to do, but if we can get a conversation created around, create some momentum behind those conversations, I think that we could see a significant change in the culture of law enforcement for the better.
Hmm.
This isn't an attack on the profession or the men and women there. This is really just recognizing an issue that must be addressed, or the suicide rate is going to be significantly worse than what we've seen here in the past couple of years. The next 5 to 10 years is very important that we get this conversation started.
Well, yeah. And I mean, we talked about humans and how I just can't fathom how somebody could, hurt somebody. Now, it also takes a toll on its on family at home, and
Yeah,
most importantly in marriage relationships. I'm going to be dead honest. I could not be married to a police officer. I would be constantly terrified that they would not come home. And I'm sure there's a lot of wives and husbands that are like that. Um, so I can see, I can understand why it would take a toll at home and obviously on marriages. Now,
yeah.
um, one of the things so we have the Royal Canadian Mounted Police here, which is Canadian, obviously. We also have our city police. I live in Winnipeg, so we have our city police. Toronto has, so on and so forth. And since I've been little to now, the crime rate has obviously skyrocketed, and the murders, and we just lost a lady. They just found her body a year later on a hill right behind my house that we all played on when we were younger. Like, it's just getting crazy. Like, you're scared to go out your door. And like I said, I'm addicted to live PD, and I mean, I'm going to tell you something really weird. My granddaughter, who is 12 years old, was watching it with me. And I mean, they show, the drug people and all that stuff. And she was watching one of these women that was, on awful drugs. And she was like, oh my God. And used it as a learning tool, which sounds crazy, but I said, that's what you don't do. You don't ever want to be like that. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah,
I like that it sheds light on what they do and what they go through. And I think it's important. And you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it with God involved. And I think that makes a huge difference, because then you're offering them kind of like salvation and, a place to go to if they get to that point. And
yeah,
if it's God and it's not counseling, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe in both. Um, I think
yes.
I think that they turn to God quicker than they turn to counseling. Does that make sense? Am I right about that, or completely off base?
I think so because for me, uh, you know, I can't relate to a lot of different cultures and different ways of life, but I know for me, it was a one-on-one experience. It was me sitting in a patrol car one day at the end of my road, just really feeling horribly hopeless and feeling just really overwhelmed. And I just said, God, I believe in you for no other reason than I choose to believe, and I would like to grow from here. And that was the beginning of a massive change in my life. And so it's a one-on-one thing. It's not a situation where you have to go and sort of talk to everybody about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
It sort of begins the conversation when it gives you the faith, it gives you the courage to go and say, okay, well, I believe that I could really get some benefit from some help. And but they're probably going to be more apt to rely on that before they take the step to seek some clinical help. And of course, I believe in both, and I recommend people who are dealing with some of those very same issues to find help because I believe that there's some very very good, effective methods and strategies and wonderful people in that profession. And I never pretend to be one. So
Yeah,
I'm
no.
always telling people, I am not a doctor. Give me
Yeah.
find some help, and here's what I recommend. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, absolutely. There's most people will turn to their faith before they go and see a doctor, and whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But I think it's an individual choice, and I'm there to help people whenever they're ready to make that step.
And that's awesome. And the only reason I said that is because of watching, different shows on TV. It seems in the States, I mean, there's not a lot of cop programs here in Winnipeg or Canada, as far as I know, where you can see a lot of the officers talk about God. So they're open about that. So that's why I thought they would probably be, more willing to accept God into their life than a counselor. And I mean, I'm hoping that, this does change the conversation. I'm all about changing the conversations on all kinds of stuff. So I'm so glad you came on. Now, you are most passionate about your faith, family, and your divine purpose. But however, you're most proud of your role as husband to Amber and father to three precious children.
Yes, absolutely. There's no higher calling. There's no greater role that I have been blessed with in this life. This year, my wife Amber and I have been married. September will be 19 years.
Wow.
We have three children, and we got married very young. We graduated high school in May, and in September we were married.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of folks didn't give us a chance at all. They were like, "Well, you're destined for failure," and here we are, almost 20 years later, and we both credit God and faith and our relationship with Him, and willing to work and stick through it, no matter the challenges that we faced. And I really think that that's the message of my new book, Bulletproof Marriage, for first responders, military. couples is, if you want to forge a resilient marriage, it starts with number one saying, we are absolutely committed to making this work no matter what. That doesn't get into issues of abuse and domestic violence, things of that nature. Obviously, that's a whole different conversation. But if you have a healthy relationship, I think that the number one thing is to say we are not going to quit. And man, I tell you, I am so blessed to have a wonderful wife and have three wonderful kids, and yeah, they are my first. Being a good husband and a good father are my most important roles in this life.
That is awesome. And I like that you talked about not quitting. And I mean, that doesn't go just for first responders, it's for everybody. I mean, so many people nowadays just say forget it and walk away. It just seems a lot easier now.
Oh
And it's
yeah,
and it's sad. Now, your real life experiences, your ability to turn pain into a message of hope, inspiration, and practical application make you a unique resource for our media outlets, pastor, and law enforcement. And I know you said to me that there's a lot of officers that reach out to you. I guess, is it on social media?
yeah. They've got a lot of them have my they connected with me on social media. They have my email and my cell phone, and I talk to them and just as a peer,
Mm-hmm.
and then always have somebody that I can direct them to and sort of have a warm handoff, if you will, create those relationships and help them feel more comfortable making that transition to getting help beyond what I offer.
And that is so amazing. That is so amazing. There needs to be way more of you in the world. Seriously, there does. I am so glad you came on.
Thank
Just
you.
as soon as I found out what you did and what you that you were a former police officer and this is what you did, I was like, oh my God, yes, because the conversation does need to start. I'm a big advocate of mental health issues and
Yeah,
diseases and disabilities. The conversation does need to start, especially nowadays. You said it
yes,
best when you said we're in dark places right now, and we are. It's a dark, dark world, and people like you will find inspiration and share it, and that is the most important thing. We all have to share it. So if you okay, so you've kind of talked about what you do, and if they do contact you, the warm handoff. But if you had any advice, first off, to give a police officer, what would you tell them? What would be the number one thing you would tell them?
you know, the number one thing is to know that what you're doing is a noble and worthy endeavor. It is a calling. It is not a job. If anybody else in this world knows, I know. And many days I miss putting on my badge and putting on the vest and putting on the bell and going out and working and serving my brothers. But I think that the most important thing is, as much as people want to understand what goes on in your life, many will never understand what you deal with. TV shows really don't do it justice. They try, they have great intentions, many of them, but they fall short. And
Yeah.
I know the sacrifices that you make. Don't put the mission ahead of your family. If you have a family, don't put them ahead of your family. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mind. Take care of your body. Take care of your spirit. Take care of yourself, and be there for your brothers. You can't be there for your brothers and your sisters if you don't take care of yourself. And I encourage you to take care of yourself, no matter how big, no matter how bad you are, no matter how strong you are. Take care of yourself, and just be encouraged. Keep your eyes open, your head down, and stay alert. And thank you for what you do. My family and I love you, and so many others do.
Oh, I do. And I know that, I mean, at the end of the day, I talked about, I'm a fan of live PD, and I am, and I always will be. But I mean, it's a show at the end of the day. It's a TV show. And I think people need to realize that. It does show a lot of what goes on, but there's a lot of, it's a reality show. So I think people need to realize that. Now, as an author and doing stuff like you're doing, and, bringing God into it and practical application and hope, what if anybody else wanted to do this, start writing books about something that they've gone through or whatever, what advice would you give them?
I've talked to a lot of writers over the past several years, and I think my number one piece of advice is if you want to write, uh, there's one very secret key to being a successful writer, and not a lot of people will tell you this. But that number one key is to sit down, to log out of social media, to turn your phone off, to get out your pen and paper if that's how you want to do it, or pull up your word processor, whatever you want to use. Sit down and write. That's the number one way to do it. Be real, be authentic, be yourself. Take all the pain that you've held inside and you haven't talked to anybody about, and put it down in words. What you've been through. Be willing to be vulnerable. Is there a chance of criticism? Is there a chance of haters and trolls and all these other hateful people to come out? Absolutely. But you're going to help far more people than you'll hear from as far as the negative is concerned. So I encourage you to sit down. If you want to write, sit down and write. That's the number one key. That's the super secret key. We talk about all the different methods and philosophies and the different guides and styles and all this, but at the end of the day, if you're not writing, you're not going to be a writer. Writers write. And so if you want to write, be authentic, be yourself, be creative, think outside the box, and you're going to change lives if you're willing to do that.
That is great advice. That is great advice. And I hope one of my friends is listening to this because she wants to be an author. Okay, so you're the owner. I'm going to get you to tell me what your business, because I don't think I'm going to say it right. I don't want to butcher this. Okay, how do you say it?
My digital marketing business is called Enlivify Total Solutions. Enlivify is a word mix. Whenever I launched the business, my mission was to inspire growth in businesses and to help forge sustainable growth. So the word Enlivify, the name Enlivify, comes from the word enliven and fortify. And so I put them together, and we have Enlivify Total Solutions. It's been a beautiful conversation starter. Business is doing so well right now. I've got new clients coming on every day. I'm almost to the point where I'm just going to have a wait list, or hire some help. I'm so incredibly blessed. I'm so incredibly grateful for all the wonderful things, for all the challenges, for all the pain that I've experienced, for where I'm at, where I'm going, because I've been able to touch lives in a very positive, lasting way. And I think that's how we should look at where we're at right now.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, Adam, where would they find you? Is it your website? And if it, like, see, I can't say
No, no,
it.
I would really, if somebody wants to contact me, there's a couple of different ways. You can go to my website, theadamdavis.com. theadamdavis.com. That's my author website. If you want to book me for speaking, that's a way to do it. If you want to contact me for an interview, that's a great way to do it. If you're interested in the marketing business, it's enlivify.com. Just please be aware I'm swamped. And then on social media, on Facebook, it's The Official Adam Davis, facebook.com/The Official Adam Davis. I'd love to hear from you. I always love connecting with listeners of shows that I do interviews on, and sort of building those relationships going forward. Relationships are so critical, and I don't think we place enough value on human life or on relationships anymore. And I think it's time we get back to doing that.
Oh my God, I so agree. Okay, so all social media is The Official Adam Davis, Twitter, Facebook. Are you on?
Instagram and Facebook is. Twitter is the Adam_Davis.
Okay, I'm writing all this down. So the Adam_Davis. Okay, perfect. Adam, thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you for doing what you're doing, because it's important for first responders and people that are in the Army, or, whatever they may do, SEALs and everything that you deal with. I think it's very important that they have somebody like you that is putting the word out there and helping them and being there for them. I love that you told me that they reach out to you, because I think that's amazing. So don't ever stop doing what you're doing. You're always welcome to come back on the show. Anything new happens, you let me know. And thank you so much for choosing my show to come on.
Thank you for having me. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too. And thank you for joining me on Allie's Awareness Avenue. Remember, just be nice to people and look them in the eye and smile at them, because you never know what that smile might do to change their day or their life. Everybody have a fantastic evening. Good night.